Hi, the main difference between a webcam and a fancy camera for online stuff is the control and the complication. We'll start off with a webcam. Webcams and phone cameras generally adjust things automatically. They don't give you a whole lot of control over the picture, but they are not complicated. So you can hit record and start going. They do a lot of great stuff automatically. So they handle the focus and the white balance, which is like trying to figure out which color in the scene is white. Like this F is a white, but if there's weird light coming in, then it has to adjust to that. They also adjust exposure, which is the amount of light that gets in, because they have to adjust. The chip that picks up light inside a camera can only pick up a certain range of light at a time. So it closes and opens an aperture, just like your eye can dilate in dark light. The chip inside the camera can only recognize a certain amount of light. So that aperture or that pupil needs to shrink or grow in order to make sure that it's capturing the right spectrum of light or the right dynamic range of light. So webcams and iPhone cameras and stuff like that are all very good at doing that stuff. But you lose some control when that happens. Then there are these fancy DSLR cameras or mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras. And these are the kind of cameras that you have to buy a separate lens for. And they're fancy and they're more expensive. You have a lot more control and you also have a lot more complication. If you are trying to control what they do, then you're setting the exposure. You might be setting the exposure manually. You might be setting the focus manually, which means that something right here is in focus, but something back here is not in focus. And you'll be setting the white balance manually. And that means you have to learn all that stuff and you have to tell the camera exactly what to do. The good thing about that kind of control is that you can, the camera won't automatically do things that are against what you want. So like, let's say you want the foreground to always be in focus and you want the background to be out of focus, then you can set that and it'll always be like that. So you'll never have a problem of like, see my face goes out of focus. You'll never have problems like that. The downside of that is sometimes you want autofocus. Like I like autofocus for what I'm doing for Zoom because sometimes I want to move back here and I want to be in focus, and sometimes I want to move up here and be in focus, and I like for my background to be out of focus. That's another benefit of setting the exposure, is that my exposure right now is locked. So that means the pupil size is as big as possible, and that means that I can get a good background blur, which helps to separate me from the background. What I'm using is a Sony ZV-1, which is between a webcam and a fancy mirrorless interchangeable lens camera. It has a lens attached to it, and it's just like a pocket photo camera pretty much, but it has incredible autofocus. It focuses on my eye, and that's really good. So I can lock in the pupil size to get that background blur, and I can lock in the white balance to make sure that even though my walls are a little bit off white, kind of yellow, that my skin looks the right color, because um, I have the white balance set, and I can get good focus on my eyes. Most web cameras don't really do that because it takes an advanced computer to figure out where your eyes are and focus on them like that. It also does like object focus. So if I bring an object into the foreground, it'll focus on that and then snaps back to good focus on my face. I like the ZV-1 because it is, I want everything to just work. I want to be able to control those certain things, but I also don't want the complication of buying separate lenses. I don't like the heaviness of buying I don't like transporting them around and stuff like that. So this is very light, small. It does the parts that I like, and then it also doesn't complicate things too much. The ZV-1 I think is $750, and a close to that camera with this kind of autofocus would be probably about the same price, but then you'd have to buy a lens on top of that. The benefit of buying a camera with a detachable lens is you can get a really good lens that gives you even more background blur. It's called bokeh. That background blur is called bokeh. So you could get even more blur separation. You can also get a lens that has, if it has that ability to open up the pupil more, and that means that you can also get more light on the sensor, so you can have a clearer picture with more color information and stuff like that in lower light. Aside from that, the interchangeable lens cameras or the DSLRs don't give you too much more stuff. I mean, there are more expensive cameras that can give you more stuff, but your as far as online shows at this current moment, with the resolution that is available and all the data that can be transferred, the ZV-1 is very good for just getting some control, but also taking away some of the complication. You can also lock focus with the ZV-1, but I'm not doing that because I really like what it does. That is an explanation for you of what the difference between a webcam and a fancy camera are. The reason it's hard for somebody to answer you what's the best camera to use is because you're balancing out all those things. How much complication, how much do you want to learn about cameras, and how much do you want to just work? So there is no answer to that question for everybody. I recommend learning a little bit and using a ZV-1 if you're not super experienced with cameras. If you're looking to do a whole bunch of fancy video shoots and stuff like that, you'll definitely need a fancy camera. And if you are just don't want to deal with it and you want something to work, then get a good webcam. Bye.